they're going to close Memsey School. And I said, well, it's the only time I've ever refused to work. I said, well, if you put 6 new pupils in here Monday morning, I walk out. I said, because there isn't room. And I said, after all, down to the North School here, the headmaster, it was Mr. Taylor, I think, at the time, he had about 20s, 25s in it. And I said, put them down there, there's plenty of room there, they'll be overcrowded here. And I suppose I had anything to do with it, but anyhow, that's what happened. The 6 didn't come into my classroom anyhow, and the Memsey children went down to the North School. Well, now, what else could I tell you?
You said that Mr. Booth was a great storyteller, did you?
Oh, yes. Well, I told you that Mr. Booth was an elder of the kirk, and every Friday morning he took the service, and he was a marvellous storyteller. That really was his gift, and he really held the children in thrall. And one of the episodes that I do remember was he went to Oberammergau, I think that had been in 1960, and he brought back the film, you see, and he recorded some of the music, because you get a tape, you see, from the Oberammergau Passion play, and you could have heard a pin drop, from those children. He could put it over so well, and with the pictures and with the music, he really held their interest. But there was a very funny incident. One day, I can't remember what was his theme that day, but he came in and he had 2 items with him. One was a little frame picture about 12 inches square, and it was of a soldier with a black moustache. And so he said, who do you think this is? And this little hand up it went and says, Hitler, you see. And of course this was himself when young. You see, they couldn't believe this now that he'd changed so much. But then he held up the other item, and it was a sailing ship. And what was that? Oh, well, they knew that was a sailing ship. And he said, well, I must tell you how these were made. During the war, in Italy, he'd been in charge of some of the prisoners of war. And one of the prisoners was an artist. So he'd asked for artist material. Well, he said, I couldn't give him anything, but he says, I gave him the canvas from an old tent. And he just made up his colours from I suppose the clay that he'd found, because it was of course khaki colours, that he'd used, and then the ready brick colours and so on. And this is what the artist had made. He'd made this painting of Mr. Booth in wartime, just out of an old piece of a tent as his canvas. And the other one was a boat. This was a shepherd. He'd never seen the sea. He'd never seen a boat, but Mr. Booth had the Argosy magazine, and there was a sailing ship in the front of it. And this shepherd had been accustomed to carving things, so he carved this just out of a bit of wood that he picked up around the prisoner of war camp and made it, you see. So this was telling the children that, if they used what was at hand, they could always do something very fine. So he treasured these 2 things from his war days. Well, now...
What about discipline in the schools nowadays?
Oh, well, you see, the children in those days, they came in and they sat down to do their work. See, there was none of this. In one way, they were so tight, you really had to sit in and sit up. If you had to sit on a 6-inch narrow bench, you see, all day, and if you were growing, some of those loons, I used to be real sorry for them, you see, they had to sit up. But that was it. They came in and they knew that you got your timetable, and they knew what their timetable was, and you set them to do their work, and you got on and doing it. And nowadays, you see, they're allowed so much freedom at home, and you gave them their homework, and their homework was done. But you wouldn't get that nowadays, because I heard just the other day that this teacher asked this child to go on a message for him, and he says, oh, no, you're skiffy. He says, why should I do that for you? See, well, long ago, children would have never said that to their master, anyway.
Do you think the threat of strap in those days maybe had a lot to do with discipline as well?
Yes, it had.
Verbal punishment.
If there was really somebody needing it, you know, they would get it. But again, it depended on the personality of the teacher. You see, if you were in command of your class and if you made it was up to you. If you didn't make your subject interested, well, that was much your fault, I would say. So it wasn't both ways. But for the Nickums, oh, Nickums, I could tell you, but Nickums, and funny, the Nickums that we had at the central school are the ones that are now giving the trouble to the police now. We could have told them that, you know, long ago. But part of it was the ones that caused most trouble were where they didn't have discipline at home, and their mother and father weren't there to look after them. Bingo, I blame for a lot of things. It tempted folk out, and broken homes. That's another thing. That was a real heartbreak when that came in, yes. And I'm afraid it's going to be worse as time goes on. Yes, I would think so.